The year was 2157, and Admiral Katie Morrison stood on the bridge of the NSV Pioneer, gazing out at the stars displayed across the main screen. Her vessel was humanity's first true deep space explorer, crafted with the finest technology Earth could create. Aboard were 200 men and women who embodied the best of their species. The Pioneer boasted fusion drives capable of exceeding light speed, quantum computers that processed thought beyond human comprehension, and weapon systems Earth's generals proudly labeled cutting edge. Katie's eyes shifted to her tactical officer, Commander Jake Sullivan, whose fingers danced over the console with the precision earned from years of disciplined service. Beside him, Dr. Lisa Chen, the ship's science officer, analyzed the endless stream of sensor data, her focus unbroken. Deep in engineering, Chief Ben Rodriguez ensured their experimental engines purred with flawless efficiency. None aboard could have guessed how close they were to an encounter that would forever alter humanity's destiny. To them, this was merely another quiet mission, charting new systems, cataloging barren worlds, searching for habitable stars. For 6 months, the Pioneer had jumped from system to system, finding only desolate planets and frozen wastelands. Meanwhile, across the galaxy on Nexus Prime, Emperor Zaxxon reclined upon his colossal throne, reviewing reports from every corner of his domain. His galactic dominion spanned 17 species and had ruled unchallenged for 3 millennia. Their warships dwarfed cities, their weapons shattered worlds, and no civilization had ever resisted their might. That day, his advisors brought word of a new, insignificant race, one that had only recently mastered faster-than-light travel. They called themselves humans, from a small blue planet in a remote spiral arm. The Emperor's report described them as frail, primitive, and naive. Like every other fledgling race the Dominion encountered, they would either kneel or perish. In the sector where these humans had been sighted, Subadmiral Korath commanded 3 Dominion patrol ships. A Sarian by birth, a reptilian species renowned for discipline and cruelty, Korath's fleet was formidable, city-sized vessels armed with plasma cannons and protected by impenetrable energy shields. When his sensors detected the Pioneer gliding near a lonely red dwarf star, a cruel smile spread across his scaled face. Another routine conquest, he thought. He would issue his ultimatum, demonstrate his superiority, and escort the broken newcomers to Nexus Prime to kneel before Emperor Zaxxon. Moments later, the 3 Dominion warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel, when humanity would truly need them. The Dominion warships emerged near the Pioneer and immediately engaged their cloaking systems, fading into view like wraiths forming out of starlight. Their immense hulls eclipsed entire constellations. On the Pioneer's bridge, alarms blared as sensors locked onto 3 unidentified contacts. Commander Jake Sullivan's hands flew over his console, his face tense as he analyzed the readings. Each vessel dwarfed the Pioneer, at least 10 times its size, with power signatures that exceeded anything humanity had ever recorded. Dr. Chen's scans confirmed the nightmare, the alien. Weapons could obliterate their ship in a single strike. Katie's pulse quickened, but her voice remained steady as she ordered her crew to battle stations. Every instinct screamed danger, yet her training held firm. Humanity had long wondered whether it was alone among the stars. Now that question was answered, and the answer looked anything but peaceful. Subadmiral Korath opened a channel to the human vessel. His translator converted his hissing alien speech into the human's crude tongue. He spoke the same words he had delivered countless times before. The humans were now subjects of the Galactic Dominion Empire. They would surrender their vessel immediately and submit to Imperial authority or be annihilated. Katie listened in silence, fury rising in her chest. These beings thought humanity would kneel without question, that they were just another primitive race destined to fall under Dominion rule. They were wrong. She opened a channel in return, her tone calm but resolute. Humanity, she said, would not surrender blindly. She requested time to confer with her government and consider their options, asserting that humans would not submit without understanding the full terms of the demand. Korath was intrigued. Most primitives either fired in panic or begged for mercy. These humans were different, calculating, composed, even defiant. He granted them 1 hour to decide, amused but unconcerned. As the countdown began, Katie and her officers prepared for the inevitable. They knew their chances were slim to none, yet no one hesitated. Jake plotted evasive maneuvers designed to exploit the Pioneers' agility against the Leviathan ships. Dr. Chen scoured sensor data for any trace of weakness in their armor or shields. In engineering, Rodriguez pushed the engines to their limits while arming every weapon they had. When the hour expired, Katie transmitted her reply, simple and unwavering. Humanity chooses to fight. The Dominion ships fired first. Blinding streams of plasma ripped through the void, forcing the Pioneer into desperate, evasive maneuvers. Jake's flawless piloting kept them alive, dodging energy blasts that could have vaporized them outright. The humans struck back with kinetic slugs and nuclear missiles, archaic by Dominion standards, yet powerful enough to ripple their shields. Korath's eyes widened in disbelief. These so-called primitives were not only resisting, they were damaging his ships. Their tactics were erratic, their courage extraordinary. For 20 relentless minutes, the battle raged. Finally, the Pioneer's shields collapsed, and enemy fire began to tear into her hull. Katie ordered a retreat, diving into a nearby asteroid field where the massive Dominion warships struggled to maneuver. Using the dense rocks for cover, the Pioneer vanished into the shadows and escaped. As his ships regrouped, Korath filed his report to Dominion Command. He described the humans as unusually fierce and tactically clever for such a young species, but ultimately deemed them a minor threat, one easily crushed by a standard pacification fleet of 50 warships. Meanwhile, the Pioneer limped home. It took 3 grueling weeks and every repair outpost they could find to make the journey. When at last they reached the Sol system, Admiral Morrison reported directly to Earth's Defense Council. She warned them of the Dominion, a galactic empire that had conquered civilizations for 3 millennia, and of the invasion that was surely coming. Humanity, she said, had 1 year to prepare. What the Dominion could not imagine was that the Pioneer had never been a warship at all. It was merely one of dozens of scientific explorers. The aliens had faced what they believed was Earth's finest. In truth, they had only met its curiosity. The day would come soon when they would meet its fury, when those ships would be called upon to defend humanity's homeworld from invasion. Fleet Commander Thex accepted his orders from Dominion Command with absolute certainty. The crystalline being had led 12 successful planetary conquests with similar forces. This new campaign would be no different. His armada of 50 warships, cruisers, destroyers, and a colossal dreadnought capable of leveling cities in a single strike, was deemed more than sufficient to subjugate the primitive species known as humans. Sub-Admiral Korath's report had painted them as defiant yet technologically inferior, and Thex saw the mission as a formality. The voyage to the Sol system took 2 months at maximum drive speed. During the journey, his officers studied every scrap of intelligence available on human technology and military potential. The data was almost laughable. Small ships, outdated weapons, and defenses that could barely threaten a Dominion patrol craft. The conquest of this Earth would be swift, efficient, and forgettable. But on Earth, that same year since first contact had transformed human civilization. General Alex Warren oversaw the greatest military mobilization in history. Every nation on the planet pooled its resources into a single unified defense effort. Factories once devoted to cars and electronics now forged armor plating and missile systems. Orbital shipyards circled Earth and Mars, turning out warships at a rate that stunned even their creators. Admiral Katie Morrison now commanded the human defense fleet from her flagship, the UES Defiant, a vessel twice the size of the Pioneer and armed with weapons powerful enough to pierce Dominion shields. Around her, hundreds of ships waited, refitted explorers, new battlecruisers, and carriers built specifically for this war. Fleet Admiral Nina Parker coordinated it all from a fortified command center hidden within a hollowed asteroid in the outer system. Humanity had spent a year building a defense web that stretched from the edge of the solar system all the way to Earth itself. Among the commanders was Captain Ryan Martinez, leading a squadron of lightning-fast attack craft designed for hit-and-run warfare, and Captain Sarah Blake, whose heavy cruisers specialized in concentrated volleys to crush isolated targets. Every officer had trained relentlessly for the coming conflict. When Fleet Commander Thex's armada emerged at the edge of the Sol system, he expected a handful of crewed defense stations and perhaps a dozen human ships. Instead, his sensors revealed a sight that froze him in disbelief. Human ships filled the void. They maneuvered in coordinated formations, hiding among asteroid shadows and orbiting distant planets in disciplined patterns. Thex counted hundreds, far more than his intelligence reports had ever suggested. These were not improvised vessels, but true warships, sleek, armed, and strategically deployed. As his fleet advanced, entire networks of hidden defense platforms powered up throughout the asteroid belt, bristling with weapons that rivaled Dominion outposts. Still confident in his superiority, Thex opened a channel and issued the standard demand for surrender. The reply came instantly, Admiral Morrison's voice steady and cold. "Humanity will defend its home. There will be no surrender, no retreat." The Dominion fired first, but the humans struck back faster than anyone expected. From every direction, human ships emerged, coordinated and precise. Captain Martinez's attack craft swarmed the massive Dominion cruisers, darting in and out of firing range, launching missiles before vanishing into debris fields. Captain Blake's heavy cruisers unleashed synchronized barrages, collapsing enemy shields through relentless pressure. The tactics were unlike anything the Dominion had faced: nuclear mines hidden among asteroids, coordinated ambushes, and even desperate ramming maneuvers by crippled ships determined to take their foes with them. To the Dominion, it was chaos. To humanity, it was strategy. On the bridge of the Defiant, Commander Jake Sullivan, now Admiral Morrison's tactical advisor, directed the defense with icy precision. He had spent the past year dissecting data from the Pioneers' encounter, crafting countermeasures for every Dominion advantage. Now, as the first great battle for Earth raged across the stars, those plans were being tested, and for the first time in 3,000 years, the Dominion's confidence began to crack. Argued within the towering halls of the Dominion High Council, every human ship in the Sol Defense Fleet knew its mission and executed it with precision. The battle raged for 18 unbroken hours, a storm of light and fire that turned the void into a killing ground. Human crews worked tirelessly, reloading weapons, repairing hull breaches, and rerouting power even as enemy fire tore through their lines. Dr. Lisa Chen, now serving as Chief Science Officer for the entire fleet, monitored the enemy's every move, analyzing patterns and transmitting countermeasures to the commanders in real time. The Dominion warships possessed overwhelming firepower and seemingly impenetrable shields. But the humans fought with something their enemies lacked: flexibility. While Dominion fleets relied on strict hierarchies and rigid command chains, human officers adapted on the fly, turning chaos into advantage. Orders were executed in seconds, tactics changed in moments, and individual initiative often decided the course of a skirmish. Fleet Commander Thex soon realized the truth that his intelligence reports had never revealed. These were not primitives. These were soldiers, brilliant, ruthless, and inventive. Their weapons were not crude. They were deadly innovations. Human railguns and pulse cannons tore through Dominion shielding, and their missiles carried warheads that could cripple even dreadnoughts. The tide of battle shifted when 6 human strike groups coordinated a daring assault on Thex's flagship dreadnought. Approaching from every vector, they divided its fire control systems, forcing the massive vessel to defend in all directions at once. Dozens of human ships were lost in the assault, but enough survived to breach its shields and hit the main engines. Chief Engineer Ben Rodriguez's new weapon designs turned the tide. His kinetic penetrators sliced through energy fields, and his EMP warheads short-circuited Dominion systems mid-battle. Weapons he had developed during the desperate year of preparation were now carving through enemy ships, like blades through armor. When the fighting finally ended after 18 relentless hours, space was littered with wreckage. 37 Dominion ships were destroyed or disabled. Humanity had lost nearly two-thirds of its fleet, but for the first time in galactic history, a Dominion armada had been defeated in open battle. Fleet Commander Thex, shaken to his core, gathered his 13 surviving ships and fled the system. His confidence, once unshakable, was gone. In his report to Dominion Command, he warned that the humans were not a primitive race. They were a strategic, technologically advanced power capable of matching Dominion forces. He urged that humanity be classified as a major threat and requested a grand fleet of 500 warships to subjugate them. On Earth, General Warren oversaw recovery operations. Aware that the victory was only temporary, the Dominion would return, and in far greater numbers. Fleet Admiral Nina Parker initiated the rapid construction of new shipyards throughout the outer solar system, while Dr. Chen led teams of scientists to dissect the wreckage of destroyed Dominion vessels. Every fragment of alien technology was cataloged, reverse-engineered, and integrated into humanity's growing war machine. Aboard the battered UES Defiant, Admiral Katie Morrison stood on her bridge, gazing at the debris-strewn void. It was humanity's first true victory against the alien empire, a victory bought with blood and fire. They had proven they could fight. They had proven they could win, but deep down she knew the hardest battles still lay ahead. The Dominion would never underestimate them again. The next war would decide not just the fate of Earth, but whether humanity survived as a free civilization or was erased from the stars forever. Far across the galaxy, Emperor Zaxxon convened an emergency session of the High Council on Nexus Prime. The news of Thex's defeat rippled through the Empire like a shockwave. In 3,000 years of conquest, no species had ever destroyed so many Dominion vessels in one battle. High Admiral Vorthan of the militant Vorthak race stormed through the council chamber, all 6 of his eyes blazing with fury. He demanded immediate retaliation, an annihilation campaign to erase the humans' entire solar system. Others disagreed. Diplomat Prime Saranex of the Athetheran delegation urged restraint, advising further study of human capabilities before escalating the war. The debate raged for days as representatives from all 17 Dominion species clashed over one question. What kind of enemy had humanity awakened in them? Vector, vanish into sensor shadows, then strike again from another. For days, chaos reigned across the Sol system. The Dominion's massive fleet, forged in the belief that power alone guaranteed victory, was forced into a kind of war it had never trained for. The High Council's arguments had ended when Emperor Zaxxon made his decree. There would be no diplomacy, no negotiations, only annihilation. The Dominion would unleash a war machine unseen in 2 centuries. Grand Admiral Krex, commander of the newly assembled armada, took charge of 800 warships, including 12 colossal dreadnoughts, the pride of 17 species united under the Dominion banner. Nearly 1/5 of the Empire's entire navy was mobilized for a single purpose: the complete eradication of humanity. These ships carried weapons capable of cracking planets, energy shields thought to be impenetrable, and the most elite soldiers from every corner of the Dominion's vast empire. It took 18 months to ready this armada, and during that same time, humanity prepared for its greatest trial. Admiral Katie Morrison, General Alex Warren, and Fleet Admiral Nina Parker worked together to fortify not just Earth, but the entire Sol system. Giant shipyards rose around every planet and moon. Mars became a bastion of industry, while the asteroid belt transformed into a defensive gauntlet filled with hidden platforms, stealth mines, and fortified bases. Colonel Amy Foster trained the newly formed Space Marines, elite zero-gravity soldiers skilled in boarding operations and close-quarters combat inside alien vessels. Captain Derek Stone led development on hybrid weapons that merged human creativity with salvaged Dominion technology. Engineer Linda Cross designed mobile defense platforms, massive modular constructs capable of repositioning across the solar system to reinforce any battlefront within hours. Dr. Lisa Chen continued to dissect Dominion technology, building countermeasures for every weapon system they had encountered. But humanity's greatest weapon wasn't its technology, it was its imagination. While the Dominion relied on brute force and predictable formations, humanity embraced asymmetric warfare. They built stealth ships that flickered in and out of sensor range, cyber warfare programs that infiltrated alien networks, and psychological operations that exploited the Dominion's rigid command structure. Admiral Jake Sullivan, newly promoted and now the chief strategist for the defense fleet, devised a plan that focused not on matching the Dominion ship for ship, but on breaking their cohesion. His doctrine, don't fight the fleet, starve it. By targeting logistics, supply chains, and communications, he aimed to unravel the Dominion war machine from within. When Grand Admiral Krex's colossal fleet emerged at the edge of the Sol system, his confidence was absolute. Before him floated 800 of the most advanced warships in the galaxy, representing every major Dominion species and combat doctrine. To Krex, this campaign would be a formality, a swift and glorious demonstration of Imperial supremacy, yet the reality before him was baffling. His scanners showed no human armadas, no visible fortifications, only the emptiness of space. The intelligence he had been given predicted vast defensive lines, yet the outer system was eerily quiet. Krex assumed it was fear, that the humans had retreated to protect their homeworld. He was wrong. Humanity had turned the entire solar system into a trap. Thousands of stealth drones, hidden missile silos, and autonomous weapons lay dormant among asteroids and planetary shadows. When the Dominion fleet advanced toward the inner system, the trap was sprung. Every concealed weapons platform in the asteroid belt came alive at once. Tens of thousands of missiles, railgun slugs, and plasma torpedoes streaked through space from every direction. The first wave of Dominion ships exploded before they could even raise their shields. Captain Ryan Martinez, now commander of a E squadron of stealth frigates, led precision, strikes on the Dominion supply vessels and command ships. His fleet emerged from cloak, unleashed devastating volleys, and vanished again into the darkness. Thex's successors watched in disbelief as their formations disintegrated. Admiral Sarah Blake coordinated the defense of the inner system from a command station buried within the asteroid belt. Her displays tracked hundreds of human strike teams and drone swarms positioned throughout the system, each awaiting her signal to strike. This was not a single battle. It was a campaign fought in shifting dimensions of space and strategy. The Dominion fleet, built for frontal assaults and overwhelming firepower, found itself at war with an enemy it could barely see, one that struck from shadows, disappeared into debris fields, and reappeared where they were least expected. For the first time in the Empire's long history, the hunters had become the hunted. Moon aboard the NSV Vanguard, leading the largest fleet ever assembled by humanity. For months, shipyards orbiting Mars, Titan, and the asteroid belt had been producing new warships in secret. Hidden under jamming fields and quantum cloaks, these vessels had been invisible to Dominion sensors. The battles the aliens thought were humanity's final stand had only been decoys, tests to measure weapon effectiveness, gather tactical data, and lure the Dominion into range of Earth's true defenses. Now, those defenses came to life. The black void around Earth blazed with engine fire as thousands of human ships, battleships, carriers, cruisers, and stealth destroyers took formation. Entire fleets rose from orbital shadows and from behind planetary moons. Massive railgun platforms that had been disguised as civilian stations powered up, their magnetic coils glowing bright white. Admiral Morrison's calm voice echoed across the fleet channels. "This is Admiral Morrison to all Terran Defense Forces. Operation Homefront is a go. Let's show them what Earth can do." Her command ship's quantum computers linked every vessel into a unified combat network, coordinating movements and firepower with sub-second precision. The Dominion had always relied on centralized command hierarchies, but the human fleet operated like a living organism, distributed, adaptable, and unpredictable. When the Dominion dreadnoughts opened fire, their plasma bolts streaked toward Earth, only to slam into layered energy barriers projected by hundreds of synchronized defense satellites. The shields shimmered, absorbed the blows, and held. Then humanity struck back. From orbit and the lunar surface, thousands of railguns fired tungsten slugs at near-relativistic speeds. Massive kinetic impacts tore through Dominion shields and armor as though they were paper. Swarms of autonomous drones streaked through the alien formations, carrying smart warheads that targeted weak points and reactor cores. Chief Rodriguez's new EMP cannons unleashed waves that cascaded through Dominion systems, disabling weapons and propulsion. Ships that had once been symbols of invincibility suddenly drifted powerless, easy prey for coordinated human fire. Admiral Jake Sullivan's stealth fleets emerged from hyperspace micro-jumps directly inside Dominion formations, releasing salvos of fusion missiles at point-blank range before disappearing again. Every Dominion counterattack struck only empty space, or false sensor echoes planted by human cyber warfare units. Grand Admiral Krex could hardly believe the tactical displays in front of him. The humans had conjured an entire armada from nowhere. Ships built, hidden, and perfected right under the Dominion's nose. His fleet, once the pride of 17 species, was being torn apart by an enemy that fought with precision, speed, and sheer audacity. In desperation, Krex ordered his dreadnoughts to begin the orbital bombardment. But before the order could be completed, one of the Dominion's flagship reactors went critical. The explosion cascaded through nearby ships, igniting a chain reaction of detonations that lit up Earth's orbit like a new sun. From her command chair, Admiral Morrison watched the destruction in silence. Her eyes reflected the light of burning Dominion ships as she spoke softly to her crew. "They came here to make us kneel. Let them remember that Earth does not bow." Within hours, the Dominion invasion fleet was shattered. Of the 800 warships that had entered the Sol system, fewer than 90 escaped, most heavily damaged and fleeing into deep space. For the first time in its 3,000-year history, the Galactic Dominion had suffered a decisive defeat. Across the stars, enslaved worlds watched the transmissions of the battle in disbelief. Humanity, the species once dismissed as primitive, had just humbled the most powerful empire in the galaxy. And as Admiral Morrison turned her gaze toward the distant stars, she knew this victory was only the beginning. "They'll come again," she said quietly. "And when they do, we'll be ready." Ingenuity and ruthless efficiency. Within the first hour of battle, the void around Earth was filled with blazing wrecks of Dominion warships. The UEES Terra led the charge, its colossal railguns unleashing tungsten slugs at near-relativistic speeds. Each impact tore through enemy shields and armor with surgical precision, leaving nothing but molten fragments drifting through space. Admiral Morrison stood calm and focused on the command deck, her eyes reflecting the pulsing glow of weapons fire across the tactical display. "Maintain formation," she ordered. "Sector 3, close the gap and keep pressure on their left flank. We're not giving them an opening." Around her, the coordinated brilliance of the human fleet unfolded like a living machine. Admiral Warren's Freedom Group hammered the Dominion's center line with synchronized missile barrages, while Captain Foster's carrier wings danced through the chaos, their squadrons of interceptors slicing apart enemy fighters before they could threaten the capital ships. Admiral Sullivan's battleships executed precise flanking maneuvers, cutting off the Dominion's retreat vectors and forcing their dreadnoughts into overlapping kill zones. Commander Blake's tactical division fed continuous updates through the Quantum Combat Network, adapting strategies faster than any Dominion AI could predict. Every ship, every drone, every missile operated as part of a single purpose-driven intelligence. Grand Admiral Krex tried to regain control of the battle, barking orders across his fleet to reform defensive lines. But every attempt collapsed under relentless human strikes. His dreadnoughts, symbols of Dominion supremacy, were crippled by electromagnetic pulses that left them blind and defenseless. Then came the kinetic salvos, punching through their weakened hulls like meteors through glass. In the midst of the storm, Dr. Chen transmitted a final broadcast across all Dominion channels. "You thought we were unprepared. You thought this was conquest. But every move you made, every weapon you fired, every tactic you used, we studied, learned, and adapted. You never fought humanity at its weakest. You fought us at our most prepared. As her words echoed through the void, hundreds of Dominion ships detonated in a cascade of explosions that lit the night side of Earth brighter than dawn. Entire formations vanished in moments under the combined fury of the human armada. Within 3 hours, Grand Admiral Krex's once unstoppable fleet was reduced to wreckage. The survivors scattered in panic, abandoning disabled ships and retreating into the outer system. The humans didn't pursue. They didn't need to. The message had been delivered. On the bridge of the Terra, Admiral Morrison lowered her headset and watched the final Dominion dreadnought break apart in the distance. Silence settled over the command deck as reports confirmed the battle's end. Humanity had done the impossible. They had defeated the greatest empire in galactic history. Transmit to all fleets. Morrison said softly. Stand down from red alert and send this message to the stars. Earth stands free. Across the system, battered but unbroken, humanity celebrated its greatest victory. The Dominion's reign of terror had finally met an enemy that refused to kneel, and the galaxy would never be the same again. Their own homeworlds undefended. What had begun as a confident empire's campaign of conquest was now turning into a political crisis that threatened the very foundations of Dominion rule, the Emperor. Zaxxon sat in silence at the center of the High Council chamber, his cold gaze fixed on the holographic projections of destroyed fleets and burning worlds. Around him, the leaders of the 17 Dominion species shouted accusations and demands across the chamber. The air was thick with fear, and something new the Dominion had not felt in millennia: doubt. High Admiral Vorhan slammed one of his 6 fists against the table. We must strike back now. Humanity must be eradicated before their victory spreads rebellion across the stars. Diplomat Prime Serenex responded sharply, his voice calm but firm. And with what, Vorhan? You would send the rest of our fleet to die. The humans have already proven they can counter our technology and predict our tactics. We can no longer fight them as we fought the others. They are not the others. The Emperor finally spoke, his voice cutting through the noise like a blade. Enough! The Empire will not collapse into chaos. He rose from his throne, the room falling silent under the weight of his authority. Humanity has done what no species has ever achieved. They have defeated us in open war, but their victory does not end this. It begins a new era, one in which the Dominion must evolve or perish. The Emperor turned to his advisors. Dispatch envoys to the remaining loyal sectors. I want every governor, every admiral, every planetary viceroy reminded that treason will not be tolerated. And prepare the Second Armada quietly. If humanity believes this war is over, they are mistaken. As the council dispersed, whispers spread through the corridors of Nexus Prime. Some spoke of vengeance, others of negotiation, but all agreed on one thing. The age of Dominion supremacy was ending. The humans had changed the balance of power forever. On Earth, Admiral Morrison stood in the command hall of the Terra, the blue curve of her homeworld visible through the massive viewport. Reports streamed in from across the solar system, recovery operations, salvage efforts, and the first debriefings of captured Dominion officers. Dr. Chen approached her with a datapad, eyes gleaming with both exhaustion and awe. We've decrypted the Dominion Central Communication codes, she said. Their empire spans thousands of systems and they're already fracturing. Entire sectors are in revolt. Their control was built on fear and we just broke it. Admiral Morrison nodded slowly. And now the question is, do we finish what they started? General Warren, standing nearby, folded his arms. We could. We have the momentum, the technology, and the element of surprise. But conquest isn't who we are. Morrison turned to look out at the stars. No, she said quietly. But survival is. And if the Dominion comes again, they won't find the same Earth waiting for them. Humanity's first interstellar war had ended not just in victory, but transformation. The once isolated species from a blue world on the edge of the galaxy had become something far greater, a power that could stand toe-to-toe with empires that had ruled for millennia. Across the galaxy, enslaved worlds began transmitting secret messages in a new language of hope. One word echoed again and again across the stars: humans. And for the first time in 3,000 years, the galaxy was no longer ruled by fear, but by the knowledge that even the greatest empire could fall to those who refused to kneel.